I hate having to move stuff to vacuum to get all of Oscar's hair out from underneath all the corners. So today I'm going to show you how I build a floating pool cue holder and redo this corner and make it awesome. Let's get started. First step in making this corner awesome was to install some new baseboards. I'm slowly installing new baseboards around my entire house, one wall at a time. And I'm using 1x6 pre-primed MDF boards as my baseboards. So once I have it level, because I have some pretty unlevel flooring, I go around, find the studs, and secure the baseboards to the studs using a brad nailer. Once that's secure, I go around and fill in all the nail holes with wood filler and then caulk the seams and get everything sanded down and painted. Once that was drying, I went out to the shop and got started cutting out all the pieces I'll need for the pool cue holder. I'm using 3 2x4s and 1 1x4 for this build. And I'll just cut out each of the pieces one by one, ensuring to cut off the ends of each board to get rid of that factory edge and make sure everything's nice and square. I will have detailed build plans available on my website with a complete cut list if you're wanting to build one for yourself. Then I took it over to my thickness planer and just planed them down a little bit, make sure they're all the same width and get them nice and cleaned up. Then over to the table saw, I just ripped off the rounded over edges and brought them down to 3 inches wide each. And here you can see a before and an after of ripping those edges off. Now it's time for a little bit of layout. We are going to be drilling some holes so that the pool cue holders can slide through them and rest on the bottom shelf. The 1x4s are going to be the back supports of the pool cue holder that are going to go into the wall of how I'm going to attach it to the wall. So I just took that amount off the back and then divided the other 2 in half and drew a line down the middle, so that would be the center of where my holes are going to go. And then I spaced the holes about a 1/2 inch in between each hole, or 2 inches between the centers of each hole. Next, I took those boards over to the drill press, and using a 1 3/8 inch Forstner bit, I started drilling the holes. In the first one, these holes are going to go all the way through because this is going to be the middle support where the pool cues go through. And I'm drilling 7 holes for 7 different cues in mine, which is only about half of the width of the center support because I'm going to be doing some shelving on the other part. But on to the next, or the bottom board of the pool cue holder. This one we're only going to be going in partial depth because we want it to support the bottom of the pool cues, or that they can rest in these slots. So I'm just setting up the drill press to go only a certain depth into the hole so I don't over drill them. So once I have that set, then I'll just go ahead and drill the next 7 holes on the bottom board. The next step, I got out my trim router and put a round over bit on it so that we could round over the edges of all those holes so that they're not sharp, and it'd be much easier than sanding. So I've got the round over bit, like I said, in there, and just going to go into each of those holes and give it a nice round over smooth edge. For the middle support, I did ensure to flip it over and round over the bottom edges to make sure they weren't sharp as well. And finally, it's time for assembly. I'm going to be using my Kreg Pocket Hole Jig 720 Pro for assembly on this piece. I do like to use 2 different drill bits because I'm using 2 different thicknesses of boards, but it's not necessary because you can change it on the drill bit. I just find it easier to do it this way. I have marked my boards already for where I want the boards to go. I just slip it in there and automatically clamp it down and start drilling my holes. holes on the 3 short pieces or the horizontal pieces, not the side supports. And I'm making sure that the pocket hole jigs on the middle and bottom support face downward, and on the top one it faces upward, so you won't see them once everything's assembled and put together. With those done, it was time for just a quick drill bit change, because now we're going to be drilling holes in the 3/4 inch material. Which is awesome about the 720 Pro is I can just slide it in there and clamp it down. It auto adjusts for the thickness of the material. So all I had to do was change my drill bit, and then I can get to drilling all the holes. The 720 Pro does have a dust collector attachment to it, but I didn't hook mine up, so I needed to do a little cleanup before we started assembly. And for assembly, we're going to be using some pocket hole screws and some wood glue. For the parts of the boards that are the 2x material, we're going to be using 2 1/2 inch screws and the wood glue there. Just clamp it down with a right angle clamp and screw it together. The bottom one attached, you can see that that one is the one with the holes that don't go all the way through, and then the top one, you can notice here that the pocket holes will be facing up, so when it's hung on the wall you won't see them. So again, just the wood glue, the right angle clamp, and then the 2 1/2 inch screws to secure everything together. Install the middle support, the one with the holes that go all the way through, and I'm just checking my measurements and making sure that the pool cues will go in and out easily without getting stuck in there, depending on the height that I put it. And I did end up with about 20-inch spacing where I thought it looked good and would work great. Then I flipped it over and just attached the other upright. And then the final step for assembly was to attach the 1x4s that we put the pocket holes in earlier. So these are going to be how we attach it to the wall. So I'm going to put one at the top and then one by the middle support. So you'll see here I'm just attaching it to the top rail and then to the sides as well. And then once we get to install it, we'll be going through these supports and into the studs in the wall. And I installed the last support on the bottom rail instead of the middle. I just ended up thinking it looked better there, and I'd have support at the top and the bottom on the installation. So with that done, let's take it inside and see what it looks like. Oh yeah, that's going to be a huge improvement. Now let's get it ready for finish. The first step is, since this is raw wood, we're going to go ahead and put a primer on it. I did sand all the rough edges and just break them down so they're not sharp and nice and smooth. And then we're putting some Kilt's primer on it in a tinted gray color, because I will be painting this black, so it'll just help save coats when we put the black finish on it. But we're not going to paint it quite yet. We're going to get it installed first, and then we are going to go ahead and paint it black. So I'm just finding those studs again on my wall. I'm using this stud finder. I love it because it's a magnet, so it finds the screws in the wood on the wall, so you know that that's definitely a stud. And so it makes it easy. I had a hard time finding 2 of them on here, but I did end up making it work. And you'll see here too with the height, I just did the height based on the top of the electrical outlet below, and that seemed to work out perfectly for my spacing. So once I had one screw in, I made sure everything was level and then attached the rest of the screws to hold it tight up against the wall. installed and it's looking awesome. But there is some slight gapping from the actual piece to the wall because of like the rounded over edges of the wood. And just to give this a more built-in feel, we're gonna go ahead and caulk it in. So I'm gonna caulk all the corners and edges, and this will help give us a better, clean, crisp paint line once we do paint it black as well. Before I paint it black, I want to go ahead and use the wall color, which is just a white on that line so that we don't get bleed through on our tape lines. And now for the black. I'm loving this project already. If you're liking this project, be sure to hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed to my channel so you don't miss any of my awesome builds. All right, here it is all painted. I did use the color Sherwin-Williams Tricorn Black in a satin finish, and I just love how it came out. Let's put the pool cues in and see how it looks. Oh yeah, I love how the wood tone of the pool cues pops off the black. Got room for our chalk there and our brush, but we do need some room for the triangle. So I did find a fix for the triangle and chalk. I made a little shelf for the chalk to sit on and added a hook for the triangle. So what do you think of my pool cue holder? I love that it's off the floor. It makes it easy to vacuum and everything's up and out of the way. Now, who's ready for a game of pool? I hope you guys enjoyed this build and just wanted to say thank you for watching, and remember to build loud, build wild, and have an awesome day.